Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are ready to begin this evening's board meeting.
Can't get to it.
The school board meeting of October 10th, 2018 is now called to order. The time is 6:02 p.m. At this time, we request that all electronic devices be put in the silent mode. Also, we ask that you please refrain from using flash photography. We would like to take this opportunity to remind members of the public of the district's mission, which is to ensure that each student reaches his or her highest personal potential, and the district's vision to be a world-class school system. This evening's student representative is Anjali Patel, a 7th grader at Bonita Springs Middle School. In her spare time, she loves helping others. Anjali particularly helps with disabled children because her cousin has a condition called Angelman syndrome. Some of her hobbies include singing and dancing. Anjali states that her role here as a student representative is to voice the opinion of her peers, and that by providing that voice, she can show the leadership skills she possesses. So, welcome, Anjali.
Thank you for having me here tonight. The character education word for October is respect. Respect is showing regard for the value of persons or things through courteous consideration and appreciation. A quote here today is, "There is no respect for others without humility in oneself," by Henry Frederick Amiel. The design you see displayed on the screens was created by Eric Camp, a 12th grade student at Dunbar High School.
Thank you very much. I'm going to read through the board agenda. First is approval of the agenda. This evening's agenda includes the invocation, the Pledge of Allegiance, one acknowledgement, public comment, consent action items, which include 6 items under executive services, 1 item under academic services, 2 items under business services, 4 items under human resources, 1 item under information systems, as well as 8 items under operations, and 4 items under other business. Board members, is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Please record your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Okay, Mr. Teuber will deliver the invocation, after which Ms. Patrica will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise for the invocation.
Dear God, thank you for this opportunity for us to meet together. Please help us come together to make decisions that are filled with wisdom and proper reflection. We ask that you clear our minds of all distractions and help us to continue to foster the spirit of teamwork, respect for all the stakeholders, and the betterment of our students at its heart. May we be a shining example of your goodness and truth within our community. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
The cadet presenting the colors for tonight's Pledge of Allegiance will be introduced by Command Sergeant Major Ray Devens, Army instructor for the JROTC program at Mariner High School. Command Sergeant Major Ray Devens graduated from Cape Coral High School and entered the Army in 1982. He retired from active duty in 2017, completing 35 years of service. Command Sergeant Major Devens served 7 combat tours during his career. Thank you, sir, for your service to our great nation and for your service to our students.
Thank you, ma'am. And thank you, everybody. The national colors for our Pledge of Allegiance tonight are presented by Cadet Command Sergeant Major Tavares Cruz. He is of Mariner High School JRTC Triton Brigade. Cadet Cruz maintains a 3.5 GPA and serves as a Mariner Brigade Command Sergeant Major. He's the show team commander and the unarmed platoon commander that competed in district, state, and national levels. Outside of JRTC, Cadet Cruz is a treasurer for the Scabbard and Blade National Honor Society and the Math Honor Society. Upon graduation, Cadet Cruz plans to enlist in the U.S. Army to be an Airborne Ranger. Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
You may be seated. Next on the agenda is public comment. Mr. Dodig, please address the agenda item of public comment.
Sure. School board policy provides the opportunity at this point in the meeting to address the board concerning any matter on this meeting's agenda or any other matter relevant to the operation of the school district. If you completed a card and submitted it before the meeting began, you will be called in the order of the card submitted. If you did not submit a card but still wish to address the board, Ms. Morgan, the board chair, will give you an opportunity in a moment to express that desire. The rules concerning public comment are posted at the back of the room. The board does not respond during public comment time to remarks made by speakers. At the end of the public comment period, the board chair will address the assignment of any concerns or requests made during public comment to the superintendent. Speakers and those attending the meeting are expected to act in a respectful manner. Attacks on individuals or abusive comments are prohibited. Time per speaker, if there are less than 20 speakers, is 3 minutes. Madam Chair, I have 12 cards.
Is there anyone on the right side of the auditorium who wishes to address the board and did not fill out a blue card? Anyone on the left side of the auditorium who did not fill out a blue card? Mr. Dodig, would you please call the first card?
Sure. Kurt Sheard.
Good evening. I'm Kurt Sheard, also known as the barbecue guy. It brings me a little bit displeasure. After I left last month and I watched the video, Chris, you sat here and you said that you didn't understand what I was talking about, was whether or not I was on a board. I thought I was pretty clear that I was on the Construction Advisory Board, that I was on the Budget and Finance Committee, but yet no one addressed the question at hand was, did the superintendent sit and listen to my name being defiled? But we look at respect, it says we all require and want respect, man, woman, black or white. It's our basic human right. That's awesome. You did a great job, ma'am. You did a great job. All I want is a little respect. We fail to realize that you, as school board members, work for us, the citizens, and he, the superintendent, works for you. Now, if you had any questions, you could have emailed me. You could have called me. It's not a problem. My number is posted all over the internet. You could have even got Melissa. She could have given it to you. So for you to say you didn't know, but yet you didn't ask, that's a real slap in the face. So I'm going to ask again for that question to be asked to the superintendent. And if it was, I need the board to address that issue, because we're not asking the right questions. We're just making assertions. But I digress. Today I come before you to talk about the findings in the audit report. Primarily I want to speak on the Bonita Springs High School experience. $15 million. What could we do with $15 million to enhance the quality and service of our students? Maybe we can get the kids out of Lehigh, out of portables. Maybe we can provide better service to those ESC kids. Maybe we can do something, but yet we failed our students. So here's what I've done. I went online and I pulled up the procurement service mission statement, and it says, to plan and construct Lee County School District facilities by utilizing budgeted capital funds in a timely and cost-effective manner. So I went in further. Mr. Mark Morris said, the Executive Director of Operational Planning for Lee County, says that he believes the system is flawed. Morris said one of many who spoke on the mounting cost of building the schools once he proposed nearly 2 years ago. Mark also stated that the level of accountability needs to improve. For who? Who's being held accountable? See, in my neighborhood, we say, who checks the checker? And as a construction professional, the owner always checks me as a construction manager. He said those responsible for building the new massive schools say roughly 78% of bills go over budget. I digress. No, it doesn't. There is no way as you as a homeowner, and if I...
Thank you, Mr. Sheard.
Mr. Sheard, your time's up. Next speaker is Kathy Mayo.
Good evening. I'm here because I'm concerned about the the audit report that came out. I tried to slog through a lot of it, and it left me with the impression that although I was raised to always support public schools and have done so my entire life, I do not have confidence in the board and the administration to vote for a tax. I don't trust you. I don't have confidence in you. And that's scary. I mean, my kids spent many years going through this school system, and I always thought I would support you. But you have not earned my trust, and the audit is only one example of why you haven't. And I don't want you to be surprised when there's a lot of people like me who are considered liberal, progressive, whatever, but you don't think of us as not supporting public schools, but there's a lot of us that are not this year, and it's because we feel you've let us down, and you've let our kids down. Enough about that. I also came today because I want to know what's the status on filling the Title IX coordinator position. Are we any closer? Has it been advertised? Are we looking for people? I think that's a really key position. It's certainly tied into a lot of the federal funds that you receive, but it's also a federal requirement. And it's gone vacant for quite a while. I represent the local chapter of the National Organization for Women, but there are other women's groups in town that are very concerned as well. We've been talking. We want to know what's happening. Right now, it seems like the only issue that's out front is this half-penny sales tax. Well, life goes on, and there's other important issues as well, and I encourage you to address that with your administration and figure out what we're doing. Thank you.
Next speaker is John Larson Shudlick.
Good evening, Superintendent Atkins, Madam Chairperson, members of the Lee County School Board, and honored guests. It's good to be here. My name is John Larson Shudlick. I live in Fort Myers, Florida. My telephone number is 239-218-4028. I came to Florida from Rice Lake, Wisconsin in 1974. I am not a Johnny-come-lately. I'm here tonight to speak against the proposed 0.5% sales tax increase. I have voted in every presidential, gubernatorial, municipal election since I can remember. When I was back in Korea, I asked for an absentee ballot. I stand before you as a veteran and a life member of chapter of Veterans Post 5335 in Lantana, Florida, and also a life member of Post 81 in North Fort Myers, Florida. When I entered the Army in 1965, I took the oath of office to fight all enemies, foreign and domestic. This proposed tax is domestic tyranny. On September 26th, I'm sure you all know about this, but guys, please, you've got 15, this is a 50-page report. And what is it says? That you misused millions of dollars, and then you want us to vote on an increase of a 0.5% sales tax, and no matter how you work it, for the average taxpayer, it's closer to $10,000 over 10 years for the average taxpayer than it is what you say. The only thing you can do, in my opinion, and the school board, just think about it, they authorized a 13% increase for our superintendent while the teachers get 2 or 3%. Are you kidding me? Who's in charge here? My goodness, as a veteran, I request that everybody in Lee County vote against what I call the greed tax.
Your time's up. Your time's up, sir.
To the
Sir, your time's up.
Your time's up.
You're welcome. Next speaker is Karen Tharp.
I'm here on a transportation issue. My daughter, Carrie Tharp, goes to Buckingham Center, Exceptional Student Center. In 2016, she was the first one from Buckingham to get the Do the Right Thing award. And since then, she has lost a brother and a sister. Our daughter was terminally ill and died in April, and our son was the man that was killed on the Edison Bridge on September the 12th on the moped. And I'm here because we moved into a 55-plus community, and I was told as long as the bus could go through either the front gate, which is 13 feet, 5 inches, or they could go in the back gate, which is just a bar, that they could come in. Now I'm being told that they can't come in. We have to go out to Queen and Powell, and some mornings their traffic is so bad, and I cannot lose another child. Carrie's a runner. She likes to take off. My husband's a disabled vet. He has COPD and emphysema. If something was to happen to me, he could not go out to the bus stop and get her. It's a mile round trip from our house to the bus stop. I don't know why we don't have smaller buses for some of the ESE students. If there's anything I do, I would raise funds, whatever. Like I said, I don't want to lose another child, and I'm so scared Carrie's going to get hit because she does try to run off. And the other thing is, I take exception to, we changed our address on August the 1st. Carrie did not get a bus until after August the 22nd. I took her for a few days, and we decided to go to New Jersey on vacation because she didn't have a bus, and it's a 1 hour round trip, so that's 2 hours a day that I was on the road to take her back and forth to school. There's got to be a better way to do this transportation issue, and right after my son passed away, I thought I was watching my daughter. There was a tractor trailer turning into the Winn-Dixie back parking lot where they dropped off their stuff, because that's where we are, where the post office is and Winn-Dixie is in North Fort Myers. It was on the wrong side of the road, headed for the bus to make the wide right turn. And then we have, when the bus is stopped and the lights are on, we have people coming down Powell from, from 41, Business 41, making left-hand turns in front of the buses when the arm is out and the lights are on. So thank you for listening to me.
Next speaker is Kim Hawk.
Hello, everybody. I remember Bill Clinton said he was going to hire 100,000 teachers back in the 90s. And there was a comedian, I believe it was Bill Maher, who said he could do the public schools a much better service if he fired 100,000 of the worst teachers. And it got a big laugh. And he wasn't joking. The problem is, we all know that we can't do that. The government school system, everybody calls it public schools, but you know, The reality is it's government schools. This is a gigantic bureaucracy. Lee County is not alone. Lee County is one of the biggest, but all over the country we have the same problem. The K through 12 system is a 90% government monopoly, and that's the root cause of these problems. We have a lot of good people in the system. We have a lot of good people in this room. The problem is waste, fraud, corruption are inherent in any government system. The only way we can fix this is to introduce competition and break up the monopoly. We have a successful college and university system in America because we have real competition. About half of our students go to private colleges. About half of them go to state colleges. Any scholarship, any voucher, any grant can be applied, including the GI Bill, which is what got Milton Friedman started in the 1950s on this path, which I think is eventually going to lead to the resolution of this problem. There's not enough money on earth to keep a giant government bureaucracy operating. Our federal government's a perfect example. I just looked at the debt clock last night. We're approaching $22 trillion. Nobody knows how that debt's going to be paid. I don't think it will. I think at some point America is going to declare a default. What bothers me most about this sales tax issue is obviously the district has used up every other source of funding and still doesn't have enough or claims not to. So this has become so adversarial and so contentious. The district, the most disturbing thing is the district has broken all the rules about campaigning on political issues and campaigns. And I know a lot of people in the district who are scared to death. I have a bumper sticker, but nobody will put it on their car. There is a climate of fear and intimidation that's very unfortunate, and this sales tax issue is bringing it right to the forefront. So just because we've been doing it this way for 100 years doesn't mean we have to keep doing it this way. Let's break up the monopoly. Thank you.
Next speaker is Jason, forgive me, Beckman or Boakman? Sorry.
Good evening. My name is Jason Beckman. I'm a Lee County resident and supporter of public education. I want to address the recent controversy that has received a lot of attention recently involving a company that has a vendor contract with the school district. The company is Crowther Roofing. This company has been the recipient of financially sizable contracts with the school district over several years. 2 weeks ago, during testimony before the U.S. Senate, in which a woman, Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, came forward with allegations that she had been the victim of a sexual assault as a teenager by the president's nominee to the Supreme Court, Crowther Roofing posted this message in large bold letters on a flashing screen outside of its business. "A boy tried to kiss me. I'm going to wait 40 years to tell on him." I would like to enter images of this message into the record for the meeting minutes. Dr. Ford's testimony, she said she was locked inside of a bedroom, pinned onto a bed, had her clothes attempted to be removed and private areas groped, and had her mouth covered so that she could not scream for help. What she described was not an unwelcome kiss. It was sexual assault. There are many reasons why survivors of sexual assault do not always come forward. There is the fear of ridicule and retaliation. These often are treated as he said, she said situations. This is obviously a conversation for another setting. But when you say and do nothing in response to the kind of message this school district contractor has made, what message does that send to students? To students who have experienced sexual assault or abuse, will they be taken seriously if they choose to come forward to tell someone they have been the victim of a sexual assault? What message does this send to students who believe they can engage in sexual assault behavior? That they can get away with it? It will be ignored by adults who will dismiss it? We should want to encourage our children to understand the importance of reporting sexual assault when it occurs, and to feel comfortable and supported to report these instances when they occur. We should not reward individuals and companies whose speech insults and demeans and dismisses the experiences of people who come forward to say that they have experienced sexual assault. There's a code of conduct of respect and decency that all students, faculty, and staff must follow. The same code of conduct should be expected of vendors who have contracts with the school district, because the money these businesses receive are our taxpayer dollars. Our taxpayer money should not be used to support school district vendors who dismiss sexual assault and treat it like a joke. There are a lot of people in this community who are outraged, and you should be outraged about it too.
Next speaker is John McMahon.
Good evening, members of the board. I wonder how many of you remember where you were your 29th birthday. Very much because of Lee County Schools, I may never forget. October 17th, 2017. I was standing right here, demanding that you take responsibility for how you wronged me. Here we stand, almost a year later, on the precipice of my 30th birthday, and you guys still refuse to take responsibility. I was abused. I was asked to work in hostile work environments. I was able to prove that I was being mistreated, and you guys tried to make me look like the criminal. I am the proverbial skeleton in your closet. But I am just one teacher you've mistreated. A simple look at your agenda is very telling. You must not have the right people in the right places because you are constantly transferring teachers from one school to another. This helps no one. When teachers should be developing their craft, they are having to acclimate to new environments. Teachers are being pushed out and replaced by even more disenfranchised substitutes. And if anyone ever points out flaws in the district, they are made to look like the criminal. All the while, the students are deprived of a quality education. The most common outcome, out-of-field teachers are English for speakers of other languages and special education students, two groups of students who require the greatest support. You are failing the most. I've poured sweat, blood, and tears into the education of our students, yet passionate teachers like me are being barred from those students, having done nothing wrong. Then you turn to the parents, the grandparents, and the loved ones of these students and demand more money. You will not get your half-cent sales tax. We will take back our district. We will have the justice and the truth that we deserve. And that will be the greatest gift I could ever ask for on my 30th birthday.
Next speaker is Jacqueline Perez.
Good evening, Board. There are several financial major concerns that I have that I'd like to report and have the Board look into. One is the OSHA regulations of placing a custom-made gas tank on a flatbed truck that we own at the district. Why were the tanks being filled at the end of an employee's work shift and being driven home behind his house and hidden in the back out of view from the street? I'd like to know how many thousands or perhaps millions of dollars that we've lost in fuel. And are we tallying that and keeping all of that accountable, especially since we're asking for a half-cent sales tax? I'd also like to report the use of an outside subcontractor to remove copper and air conditioning parts from school property, and we're not being reimbursed by them. This person that was encountered that day said that he was a sub for the district. And I sent an email request, PRR request, and I was told that he has no agreement, no contract with the district, yet I have photographs of a person, I have his name, removing property that we can get money from our school district. And I'd like to know why we paid a contractor to drop concrete and make improvements on a privately owned entity. And we paid that contractor out of taxpayers' monies, our monies, everybody in here's monies. And I have a copy of that check that I will leave with Susan also. And I want an answer as to why we're making major improvements on privately owned entities that have nothing to do with the school district. I also want to know why we're allowing subcontractors, HVAC contractors, to fill their supply trucks with our supplies. I have statements from 5 employees who have witnessed this done on several occasions, which is also money coming out of the taxpayers' pockets. I'd like to know also why we purchased a brand new Kubota last year that was taken off the premises of the school district, privately used, and turned over where the frame was twisted, hidden in a warehouse. This is the warehouse that we own, and it was hidden until this year when they started using it again. I'd like you to look into salary inequalities in some of your departments that can be easily identified when inexperienced new employees are making substantially more.
Ms. Perez, your time's up. Yeah. Next speaker is Ron Pure. You just put it there, sir.
Ron Pure. I came up from Bonita tonight just to see all you folks. It took a long time. Another problem that we've got to deal with. I'm going to leave something with you folks tonight, but I'm going to bring a story to your attention. About a month ago or so, a member of the board, your board, was at a meeting making a presentation on behalf of the school board and the school system. And along the way, while she was getting to her final point of the pitch, that was just hopeful that we would support the sales tax that you're proposing, which is 8%, by the way. That's an 8% increase in the current sales tax. Anyway, the lady representing the boards brought to the fore the fact that about 10 years ago there was a school built in Lee County that was $22 million over budget. I glanced around the room at the time, and I think the wide-eyed people spoke without speaking. And it made us wonder how often that happens. Now, the person on the board who was there that night giving her spiel said that that was kept on the QT. Most people didn't realize that that was happening at the time, or it did happen, because the board in place at that time just wasn't as open as the current board is. The only reason that we know now that the Bonita High School was $14 million over budget is because you are all transparent and upfront about things. And I would contend that that is not the case at all. It is not the reason we learned about it. It's because the members of the public, many members of the public, who are more tuned in than ever down here into the shenanigans and the serious business that you folks deal with. And I think that if we weren't watching that system or that school unfold and be built and the property be purchased at a ridiculously high price, we wouldn't have known, but we knew enough to pay attention. I'm going to leave with you tonight. I hope it'll be part of the minutes. Certainly I can't read it. It's too long. But it begins with Lee Schools has a $355 million a year spending and policy problem, not a revenue problem. I think if you adopt some of the things that are in this, along with that which the state auditor handed you a few weeks ago, I think you can make some real headway in the system. Thank you.
Next speaker is Ryan Richards.
Members of the board, good evening. Members of the public, my name is Ryan Richards. I'm a member of the Construction Advisory Committee, and I'm also a local small business owner. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of the half-penny sales tax, and I feel that in our industry, as it lays out now, public education, if anyone's paid attention to what's going on in Tallahassee the last 10 years, like I know you have, having 25% of our millage reduced from our taxes, and then not returned under the disguise of balancing the budget under a recession, which we're no longer in. There's been a slow and systematic crushing of publication in general, and while I'm with this gentleman here on competition is good, one thing that public education cannot do, like universities, like colleges, and like charter schools, is reject people. We can't reject people because they don't speak English. We can't reject people because they have learning disabilities. That is where public education is essential. And anyone can tell you that a degree from Harvard or Harvard...
Sir, address the board.
Oh,
He's okay. He's trying to be polite.
Anyone can tell you that a degree, not all college or university degrees are created equal. Education should not be for those who can afford it. And speaking on behalf of the business industry, we want good jobs here. We want good paying jobs here. The community needs to know that the people are serious about education here. And that's really how I'm going to leave this.
Next speaker is Louis Navarra.
Louis.
Good evening, Superintendent, board members, Lou Navarra, Masters Ed, FSU, ashamed to lose into Miami, USF undergraduate, undefeated. All College of Ed. I was in the neighborhood like Mr. Rogers and thought I'd stop by and talk about the alleged misuse of taxpayer dollars. Notice I said alleged. I believe innocent till proven guilty. A 14th Amendment right which is rapidly disappearing as we drift to the far right. First, I knew you had the money for what you want. I just didn't know how you got it. Now we have a suspicion. Here's a $40,000 bill for the J. English LED sign. Fix the roof leaking at Mirror Lakes instead. I got the bill here. I'm not going to waste the time right now. I'll leave it. You should remove the regressive sales tax from the ballot. Let's seek that elusive butterfly of transparency from an old song from 1962. You need to clear up your house. I recommend that you all resign if you are found guilty. Dr. Atkins, you can use your bailout on your platinum parachute, which you early negotiated before October. Negotiations, remember I said last time, parity, 13% for teachers, all administrators and support, just like you. Sarasota and Manatee County are over 44K. I saw our friends at the Sarasota County School Board. I told my friend Jane Goodwin she should stay out of tax politics in Lee, Manatee, and Collier County and just stick with Sarasota. Now let's get high stakes testing, which messed up our calendar. We only seem to be the only district to start on Friday. We need to abolish Common Core that our Governor Scott has his own brand. I challenge all of us to take the FSA. I'm tired of seeing children stressed out in 3rd grade. You capture a mind by creative teaching, and that mind goes out to be a great leader and discoverer. A test means nothing in your future. Why are we testing our children to death? Small wonder they hate school, and we need to have to make our schools prisons with next razor wire. As a child fails, so does a school district. Thank you. I'm going to leave you some brochures about Common Core, and I suggest you have a few printed agendas for those people who do not have computers and can't see the board. Yes, First Amendment rights. Come on. Even Cape Coral has printed agendas. Thank you.
Have a good evening. Next speaker is Randy Scott.
Before you come up here, I'll do it. Hey, we were on Facebook Live while we went on. Got some comments from some people looking. That's transparency. Mr. Dodig, Superintendent Atkins, Mary Fisher, Melissa Giovanelli, Ms. Patrica, Mr. Tuber, Levervier, Uncle. I better put my glass on. There you are.
Morgan.
And Morgan. Good to see you all. I would pay for the student representative to have her name put on there every meeting, or his name. Student representative, nice to see you. I can only call you that because that's what's there. Anyway, Jay LaGrace says no to the tax. Facebook Live. We started the meeting in a prayer by Mr. Tuber, and it seemed to be quite a solemn event, and people really got into it. I almost felt like I was at church. Then I started thinking about Scripture, and I thought about how the Bereans would look at the Apostle Paul, and they would open up the book, and they would challenge him. Can you imagine the Apostle Paul being challenged? What attitude of those people? I think that attitude shows a leader. It shows someone who isn't afraid of being challenged, instead of firing people, sending out squads, having sheriffs showing up at FAC committees. That's improper behavior. That's not leadership. You're going to lose the sales tax because you're disconnected to the public. The public are watching your behavior, and they see it. And the students, they feel it. You don't understand the love of this district. The bus drivers' love of those students. The bus drivers' love of each other. You don't feel that. The love you have here is a love of power and money. And you need to separate that, especially when you invoke a prayer at the beginning of a ceremony. You're inviting trouble. And I've posted a lot of stuff. I've somewhat felt like I've been brought up as a leader, and it's not really what my plan was, but it was brought to me. It was brought to me. I've gotten good at producing videos, and I'm going to get even better. And I'm going to be a part of defeating this tax. Ms. LaRiere knows the situation. Ms. Patrica understands exactly what went on. Ms. Morgan was a part of it. That's not how you're going to build the trust. I'm not here complaining. I built the conflict. I know where I'm going, and I know where you're all going. And regretfully, I think that you're losing, through your disconnection, your own employees. My survey is that there's a lot of facts that don't meet the truth. The tax that you're talking about, you're going to get. We know it's going to be over $1 billion. You said $4.
Mr. Scott, your time is up.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. And final speaker, no, it's not, was Jerry Ware.
Good evening. I'll adjust the mic for you.
Good job.
Thank you. To the superintendent and to the board, I am here tonight to resume my concern. I was not here the last meetings because I had eye surgery, but anyway, my concern still remains. I spoke with Mrs. Morgan and Dr. Kunkel about a concern at James Stevens about the method in which BI units were transferred there abruptly without the knowledge of the principal. And of course, she addressed my concerns, which wasn't to my liking, but that's okay. So then I had the opportunity to sit down with the superintendent, Dr. Creel, our representative of diversity, Mr. Eady, to address how could you go about sabotaging the school by placing 2 BI units there. Now, what has these 2 BI units done to that school? On Dad's Day there were 3 police cars there. Of course, they call me. You all think that Mrs. Stetman calls me. Please don't bother her. She does not call me. The parents are going to call me. I'm in the community. I'm there. You all know I've been advocating for years. So why was 3 police cars there? One of the BI students out of control. And the worst thing, before my minutes get out, that irked me and grieved me was last week, a 5-year-old child was Baker-acted at James Stevens. Now that really hurt me. So I'm wondering, I asked you all months ago, what is our mental health plan? How are we going to deal with these issues? Of course, you agreed with the NAACP that you would not suspend kids, but most of the kids that were being suspended have behavioral issues. So if you keep them there, all you're doing is creating more problems. So my concern to you is that you say that in number 4, that you will have convene with community forums and public conversations on a quarterly basis in our community. We don't have Rotary clubs, so I don't know how you're going to get to us, but I'll be there if you let me know, and you know that I will. But I'm asking you all once again, you need to revisit the way in which you're moving these BI units into these schools who are just now getting out of havoc. And I was told that it was because of proximity. That doesn't back with me, because you're busing kids away from that school to another school and bringing kids in from Lehigh Acres. That's not a community school. That's not proximity, because my vocabulary tells me the word proximity means nearness. And I know that Lehigh is not that near to James Stevens. So once again, my main problem is, what are you doing with the mental health issues in our schools? Because it's running rampant. It's running rampant at James Stevens. I can tell you that now. And I would applaud all of you if you would address my concerns. You know I'll be back. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Jerry.
Ms. Tharp, I know that we have your information, and I'm sure someone from the superintendent's office will be in touch with you about transportation for your daughter. Let's see, the board is allowed to provide education on the sales tax. Board members may provide education on the sales tax. That is not a violation of law. We may not advocate, and we don't advocate. There is a PAC that is doing the advocacy for the half-cent sales tax.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
there's been a lot of calling out from the gallery this evening. Could we issue warnings, please?
Sure, absolutely. So those who are sitting in that section of the gallery, we expect you to respect our rules regarding conduct of the board meeting, and should you persist in your disruptive behavior, you will be asked to leave. And Mr.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sir?
So. It is disheartening to hear members of the public come up and continue to address the board about a $15 million overrun at Bonita Springs High School. We all know that there was no cost overrun at Bonita Springs High School. There was an error made in the estimation of the cost of the high school. The finished product per station, per student costs reflect the state average for per student, per station cost, and we are confident that we have delivered to the taxpayers a quality school at a very reasonable price. The comments that were made about Mr. Mora having made comments about the process, those comments date back to when we discovered that there was a problem at Bonita Springs High School. Those comments are no longer valid. We have a new process in place, and in our briefing this afternoon, it was made very clear in the presentation about the construction projects on the table, that this new process is working well. Let's see, 3, 4. Ms. Perez, she's left. Anyway, Dr. Adkins, I'm just going to ask that you review the materials that she brought to us and update the board,
Absolutely.
if you would, on that.
Okay, thank you.
And with respect to the question on testing issues, I just think the public needs to understand that testing is mandated by the state. You can come and you can talk to us all you want about the amount of testing that takes place, but most of the testing is not under our control. You need to deal with your state legislators. I think those are all the comments I have. I'm going to ask Mr. Dodick if he would like to make any comments, and Dr. Atkins if he would like to make any comments before we move forward.
The only comment I would make is that elected officials such as you can advocate passage of the sales tax. So I just want to make that clear. That's all.
Thank you.
Just, I think there was a question regarding Title IX, and that was a position that had been, the duties of that Dr. Bohatch had taken on. Those duties were one of many that Dr. Bohatch had. Dr. Creel, in her reorganization, reassigned Title IX to Mr. Bradley. Mr. Bradley had much less of a scope in terms of what he was responsible for, so she felt that the Title IX assignment to Mr. Bradley was appropriate, so he is the person that is responsible for that area. The other issue with Ms. Ware, we did have, I think, a good conversation. One of the things that she spoke about has to do with how students are assigned and the proximity. She is, as a gen ed student, that is correct at this time, but that's something that we're trying to move toward, proximity-based assignment. With our ESE students, we have a little bit more flexibility. So out of the 12 students that were assigned to James Stevens from Heights Elementary, 11 of those students actually reside closer to James Stevens than they do Heights Elementary. So, when it comes to the assignment of students, I mean, one of the things that Heights was experiencing was difficulty with parents being able to get to an elementary school. If you try to go across town to Heights, it can be quite a challenge. James Stevens, if you live over on this side of town, it's going to be much easier to get there. So again, 11 out of 12 of those students are actually coming to school closer, and it is also my understanding one of those students from Heights was also assigned to, I believe it's Ray Potter.
Bless you.
Ray Potterdorf. So anyway, we continue to work with Mrs. Ware and others, but I think that one of the things that we have demonstrated as an administration time and time again is that we put additional resources at our schools that have the greatest need. That is why, as a school district, we have moved from 23 schools in D and F status to 1 school in D and F status, and in the course of 4 years. And that 1 school, we made it again more changes, put resources out to that school, and I'm very confident that one's going to come off the DA list. And so our goal this year is to have 0. If you break down per pupil spending, and we probably should do this for you, but if you look at how much do we spend per child, you're going to see that resources at James Stevens, we spend more dollars per child than you're going to see at some of our Tier 1 schools. So I do cringe at the assertion that we are attempting to sabotage that school, because we have demonstrated time and time and continue to demonstrate that we are an administration, and this board has the desire and the willingness and the track record, quite frankly, 23-1, of putting those resources there and getting the results. So if we have a concern as we monitor this situation at James Stevens that we think we need to make a change, we will make a change. As I have made and our staff has made many, many times before.
Thank you. And I neglected to respond to Ms. Mayo about her comments. I would welcome an opportunity to speak with you and your friends about the audit. The state raised questions in their audit about some of our procedures. We have challenged the state's response. We are not the only district. In fact, most districts do what we do. This is the one finding with respect to the use of impact fees is a matter of the courts to decide, because the school districts disagree with the state with respect to use of impact fee funding. I'd be happy to meet with you and any of your friends to talk further about the audit. I also refer you to the audit that was done by OPAGA that was required as a result of our putting the referendum on the ballot, and I would also refer you to the Gibson consulting study that looked at our operating procedures. Efficiencies, thank you. So I welcome an opportunity to meet, and please contact me or I will contact you.
You know, the one last thing.
Yes.
I was hoping that Mr. Sheard would be here because I wanted to address him, but he's not here. I'm sure he will watch this. I have talked to staff that was named in terms of a conversation that occurred, and they don't know what he is referring to. I've racked my brain. I don't know what he's referring to. Now, he has indicated to me that he's got his information from a board member. And again, I have not had a conversation with a board member that I'm aware of that gets to what his assertion is. If my staff or I did anything that was offensive, we would obviously apologize for that. But at this point, I don't know what conversation to which he's referring, and it's very, very difficult to address something to which you don't know what he's referring. And again, I've had multiple conversations. I know Mr. Blurton reached out to Mr. Sheard personally, had a conversation about it, and again, you know, we feel that, you know, that conversation either A, did not exist, or it's been taken out of context. And that's unfortunate if that's what occurred.
And I will say that I also met with Mr. Sheard to talk about his concerns, and my impression was that this was not, he did not hear this conversation. It was referred to him by someone else, so he did not have the ability to give me any more information other than hearsay with respect to the incident. So, but I did attempt to meet with him and resolve it. Okay, next is consent items to be voted on. Next is approval of action items in the agenda under consent. The documentation for action items listed under consent is made available to board members 7 days prior to the board meeting. We are expected to review all of the material, and we have an opportunity to meet with the superintendent with any questions we may have regarding the recommendations. Some of these items were also briefed or workshopped with the board in advance of appearing on the action agenda. Board members, are there any agenda items you wish to pull for discussion under the unfinished business tabled items portion of the agenda? Ms. Fisher?
I have none this evening.
Ms. Giovanelli?
I have none.
Ms. Patricia?
No, thank you.
Mr. Teuber?
I have none.
Ms. LaRiviere?
No, ma'am.
Dr. Kuckel? None. And I have none. Is there a motion to approve the agenda's consent action items?
So move.
Moved by Dr. Kuckel, seconded by Ms. Fisher. Please record your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Included in the approval of consent items on the agenda are resolutions proclaiming October 15th through 19th, 2018 as National School Lunch Week, October 22nd through 26th, 2018 as National School Bus Safety Week, and October 23rd to 30th as National Red Ribbon Week. Dr. Adkins, would you please introduce any administrators in attendance with a new assignment that were approved?
Yes, Madam Chair, it is my pleasure to introduce Karen Baber, curriculum instruction innovation from content specialist to coordinator teaching and learning. Congratulations.
Okay, now it is time for board member reports. I will start with Ms. Fisher.
I have nothing this evening.
Benelli?
I have none.
No, thank you.
I have none.
Ms. LaRiviere?
No, thank you.
Dr. Cahill? And I have none. Mr. Dodick?
No, thank you.
Okay, and Dr. Atkins?
No, thank you.
Okay, the next scheduled meeting of the board will be October 23rd, 2018. At this point, having no other business to come before this body, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Did we give our student representative an opportunity to comment?
Oh, my goodness, I apologize. I'm embarrassed. You also have an opportunity to comment, and we would love to hear from you.
You.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you, Ms. Patrica.
Sorry.
That's okay. No, don't be sorry. My bad.
It's been a couple of months since we've had one.
That's right. Okay, so I will entertain a motion for adjournment. Moved by Dr. Kuckel.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Teuber. Please record your vote. Motion carries 7-0, and I believe we will be adjourning to
Room D.
for our debrief. Okay, thank you very much.